Hi, and welcome to Studio SN. My name is Sara Naumann, and today I'm really pleased to be a guest blogger over at PaperArtsy. Today we're going to play with our Eclectica stamps and combine them with stenciling, heat embossing, and Fresco Finish paints. When you get done watching today's video, I hope you get a chance to stop on by the PaperArtsy website. They're over at paperartsy.co.uk, and while you're there, enjoy all of their fantastic tutorials, blog posts, and videos as well. And of course, you'll get a chance to check out all of their fantastic stamping supplies too. In the meantime, enjoy today's show. This card has a lot going on, especially texture. I have a background over here which is a Harlequin design stenciled with grunge paste that I tinted with Fresco Finish chalk acrylic paint. Over here is Eclectica stamping that I heat embossed, and then my card focal is more of the tinted grunge paste that's been stamped, and I've got some ribbon and brads as well. So lots of texture, lots going on. Why don't we get started with the stenciled background over here, and this is really easy to do. And what I'm going to do is start with a piece of white cardstock. This is just plain matte cardstock. And then I'm going to mix up my grunge paste and my Fresco Finish. And I'm working with a Hey Pesto Fresco Finish paint. And you can see on here all of the Fresco Finish bottles will have a little label down here that tells you if the paint is translucent or opaque or semi-opaque. And you'll notice that this is translucent. So by combining the paint and the grunge paste, not only are we going to get more texture and body to this paint, but you're also going to give it a bit more of a matte look. So texture, dimension, and a slightly different sense of opacity, although it's going to keep that fabulous Hey Pesto color. So what I'm going to do is mix it up on my little craft palette here. This is a coffee can lid. And I'm going to start with my grunge paste. Now, if you haven't worked with grunge paste before, it's slightly addicting. You can see how much I like it. I don't have very much left. It's a little bit chalky. It's not like a gesso, although you may think of it in the same way in terms of being a primer. You can use it as a primer as well. So I'm just going to put a little bit here onto my palette. You can also see the consistency of it. It's not really drippy or anything. It's a nice consistency. So I'm just going to pop that down here. I'm using a palette knife, so that makes it a lot easier. So always be sure and put the lid on your grunge paste as well. Okay, now I can add my Hey Pesto Fresco Finish. And you don't need to do a whole lot. Of course, the amount of paint you use in proportion to your grunge paste will determine how rich that color is or how pale. Okay, so I'm just going to mix this in here using my palette knife. And I'm just working and blending this in together. I'm going to get all of that chalky white color of the grunge paste really mixed in there nicely. So I have a nice even color on here. Okay, so that's about going to do it. Now the next thing I need to do is get my stencil on my piece of cardstock. And this stencil is from the Crafter's Workshop. It's their Harlequin. It's a 6x6 stencil, clear plastic, really nice, easy to use. So I'm just going to pop this down here on my cardstock. And you can hold it down while you apply the grunge paste. I prefer to tap it down with a little bit of either masking tape, or if you have some washi tape that you pulled off for a project and then decided not to use, you can do that as well. And just tack this down on here like so. Okay. And then I'm just going to take my palette knife and apply it to the stencil with this as my tool. So I'm just going to spread this on here, very nice and easy. Think of it like frosting a cake. And just make sure that as you're going on here that you're getting some nice even coverage. You can be a little bit generous when you're applying this, because with the palette knife you can then scrape off any excess and return it to your palette to use in another section. Okay, so you'll apply this on here. Make sure that you get all of the various areas of this stencil design. Scrape off the excess. And I'm not going to do the whole piece because I think you can kind of get the gist of it. I'll lift this up and off and show you. Look at that fabulous detail. It's crisp. It doesn't leak or bleed underneath the stencil. And I've got some raised dimension on here. And yet, when you compare it to the color in the bottle, it's the same. It's fabulous. I love it. Now, I still have a little bit of my hay pesto on my palette, so I'm going to go ahead and put the remainder of it onto a little piece of cardstock. And this is just going to be for my card focal. I don't like to waste anything, so I want to make sure that I can put it to use. So I'm just blending this on here, again, just like frosting a cake. Now, because I know I want to do stamping on this, I'm not going to try and get too much dimension on here. I want it to be fairly flat, so when I stamp on it, I don't miss any of that detail. So then what I need to do is just set those pieces aside to dry, and then I can move on to doing some stamping. So as you can see on here, that's the stenciled portion that will go here. This area here has been stamped and heat embossed, and I'll show you that part next. So the stamps that I'm working with are from the Eclectica range, of course, and this is ESN12, and I want to use this big brick wall, the text stamp here, this half portion of text, and then this little spatter design on here. When I designed the stamps, I wanted you to have not only fun quotes to use, but also some of these background elements on here. So I'm going to get my piece of craft cardstock. I know it's a little hard to see it on my craft sheet, but once I get it stamped up, I think you'll be able to see it a little bit better. Now, I wanted to include several images in one go, so I'm putting them all onto my acrylic block, and I can stamp this as one unit. I like to do this better when I'm working with creating a big background, so that I'm able to do it in one fell swoop, if you will. So I've put these all onto my acrylic block. This is a flexi block, and this is 5 by 7 inches, or 18 centimeters by 12.5. So you can see in proportion to my hand, because they're thin and lightweight, it feels really nice to stamp bigger images or a collection of images, rather than sometimes with really big, thick acrylic blocks. You feel like you're stamping with a hardback book. So the next thing I'm going to have is a piece of folded white paper. That's going to be my funnel for catching my embossing powder. I need my embossing ink, and I'm using Versamark. You can use another type of embossing ink if you want. And then I'm also using opaque vanilla white regular. This is from Wow, and this is their embossing powder. So I've got all of my stamps on here. You'll notice that I've got them concentrated in the center of the block rather than scooted off to the side. And that's so when I stamp this down, I get nice even pressure. So I'll go ahead and ink this up with my embossing ink pad. And just make sure that you've got this all nicely inked. And get all of the areas on here. And then turn it over and stamp it down. Again, nice firm pressure. You'll notice I'm not rocking from either side. Using the palm of my hand. It helps to stand up, but I can't stand up right now because I'm filming this. So normally I would stand up and really get some nice even pressure on there. Then what I can do is lift this off. I've got, you can see the shadow of that. Put this into my folded piece of paper and then immediately sprinkle with this embossing powder, which I do not have very much left, so I'm trying to be a bit sparing. And slide it down this way, tap it on here, and then you can see I've got my embossed on here, ready to heat set. So what I would do is go ahead and heat set this. When you heat set it with your embossing tool, you do want to allow yourself a little bit of time because it's a lot of space on here. So you will need to give yourself some time when you're doing the heat embossing. And then also remember that you'll need to let it cool for a bit. When you get that heat set, you will have something that looks like this. So lovely bright white. I love how that coordinates with that craft cardstock. Just beautiful. So then the next thing I'm going to do is stamp my card focal. And I've got this piece with the tinted grunge paste, and I have my quote stamp already mounted up onto another smaller one of the flexi blocks. Now to stamp this, I'm going to use Jet Black Archival from Ranger. This just works really nicely on that on the grunge paste. And remember, I didn't make this too thick, so I should have a nice even surface or fairly even surface on which to do my stamping. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink this up and turn it around and place this down on here. Give a nice, firm, even pressure and then lift that off. And as you can see, it stamps really nicely, even with that texture on there. So there's nothing that can't happen today by one of my favorite authors, an American classic, Mark Twain. Now, before I go ahead and add this onto my card, I edged it with a little bit of the vanilla opaque Fresco Finish. And that was just to give a little bit of a frame to it and also to coordinate this with the vanilla embossing over here. So you can see, I think you can see it really well over on this side, but I just went around the edges with a little bit of that vanilla Fresco Finish, and then it kind of creates a frame, a mat around this. It contrasts with the pink underneath and coordinates beautifully with that vanilla. Now the pink paper that I have here is a piece of pink cardstock, just regular white matte cardstock that I painted with Candy Floss Fresco Finish. Now the Candy Floss is opaque, as you can see here, and also you can see how opaque it is because I got a thumbprint on here with that paint, and it completely covers part of the label on there. So you can tell it's really opaque. Just one coat on here and it's ready to go, and which is really nice. You don't need to spend a lot of paint on there to get a nice even finish. So I created this matting piece here as well as this one down here, and they can easily assemble everything together. So this piece has been mounted up on foam tape, some brads in each corner, then a little bit of that pink painted paper, some white paper, a bit of ribbon that's been knotted and then wrapped around there. And then I've got my two pieces here, the embossed and the stenciled. Now, something that you may or may not have noticed right away is that proportionally, I've got more of this craft paper than I do of the stenciled paper, and this is deliberate. I didn't want it to be too half-see, half-see. I wanted it to be a little bit more of one or the other. And the reason for that is because it just creates a bit of visual interest. It's very subtle. You may not have even noticed it, but it is a little bit more visually interesting. It's just something a little bit different. Now you'll notice that echoing that same design element, I've added more space over on this side of the card focal. So more space over here with that pink, more space over here with the craft cardstock. So it balances really nicely. So that's how I've created that focal piece on there. These two have been matted on white, and then of course on the pink painted paper, and then up on my card front. So this is how you can add texture and Eclectica style to your cards, featuring grunge paste and a little bit of Fresco Finish. I hope you enjoyed today's show. A big thank you to the folks at PaperArtsy for inviting me to be a part of their blog today. For more inspiration and to check out the Eclectica stamps and other fabulous PaperArtsy supplies, do be sure to stop by their website at paperartsy.co.uk. Of course, you know you can always stop by my place at saranaumann.com, and while you're there, I would love if you subscribe to my weekly email newsletter. Thank you so much for joining me on Studio SN, and I will see you again next time.